Shalom. This week is Parshas MiKayts, and it deals with the end of the imprisonment of Yoseph and the subsequent reunification of him with his family. And from it, we learn something of the cycle of a tzaddik. It starts with Pharaoh having a dream, and the dream is of 7 healthy, beautiful cows being consumed by 7 very ugly, horrible cows. Then it repeats itself, but instead of with cows, it's with grain. And it's similar in that respect to the dreams that Yoseph had, where he dreamed about his brother's stacks of wheat bowing down to his stack of wheat. And in the case of Pharaoh, it's a dream about an upcoming famine. In the case of Joseph's dream, it was basically a commanded from heaven that he should be accept upon himself as being the leader of the family. The nature of Yosef is that of an introvert. He's really not greatly interested in being the ruler and giving the orders. He's more the type of person who, if everything's okay, he prefers to basically be engaged in his personal studies. What you see also is the idea of acceptance of this tzaddik and the subsequent withdrawal from him. When a person starts learning Torah, he's very enthusiastic. He sees the beauty and the loftiness of its very benevolent and wise ideas. Okay. However, as he learns more, he starts feeling a sense of obligation to live up to these ideals, and that can be a problem because some of these ideals are not so easy to live up to, and other ones we just simply don't like the idea of them, the sound of them. Now, we may accept them wholeheartedly subsequently when we actually do them, but we don't like the idea of doing these things. Among those ideas is the idea of purity and the idea of fear of Hashem. What you've got is the idea that even the things that you do in secret, even though the people involved may be entirely consenting, nevertheless, because these ideas are not pleasing before heaven, there may be retributions. That's one of the ideas that makes people rebel. You have the Pirkei Avot, where David HaMelech talks about giving kavod to Achitofel. He calls him the person who let him know things, his champion, his hero. In fact, Achitofel was David's chavrusa. They learned, they say, 2 halachas from him. It's a quote from Psalm 55, but it continues with Psalm 55, where he laments the betrayal of Achitofel, who bitterly turned against him, saying, we would taste the sweetness of Torah. We'd go to learn into the Beis Midrash with a great amount of feeling. So what you've got is, again, the idea of that now Achitofel is specifically chasing after David to kill him. you have the similar idea in that it's the tzaddik is being slandered and isolated. The wife of Potiphar claiming that basically that Yosef tried to rape her and getting him thrown in jail. Okay. And the brothers rejecting the prophecy of leadership and selling him into slavery. Even in isolation, in his degradation, Yosef continues to learn. He's refined, becomes more refined. He continues to grow, and there is a difficulty with being in jail, but nevertheless, he seems not to suffer greatly from it. He becomes in charge of all the prisoners. You then have the issue of what follows then is what amounts to release and acceptance of the difficult ideas. These come in the face of harsh conditions and threats of things being worse. In the case of Pharaoh, he now has a threat of a devastating famine that will be so devastating that the years of plenty will be entirely forgotten. This is the idea of that when a person rejects the tzaddik and he rejects Torah, it totally consumes him as well, to the extent that he will become an ugly person, as if he never even learned Torah to begin with. What happens after this is when the person is faced with disaster. In the case of the Joseph's family, that they're faced with starvation. At that point, they go through some soul searching, and what they see is that the difficult ideas of Yosef, that love relationships are not all the same for all children, and that a person has to be concerned about his behavior even in the abstract. Okay? These ideas become not only acceptable, but pleasing as well. This is the idea that in the end of days, there will be a famine that will not be for food and drink, rather it will be for the word of Hashem.